Hi everybody, Jonathan Reeves here with another Vectorworks 2021 video. Now today we're going to look at enhancing your workspace. Not only are we going to simplify the workspace, but we're going to add a lot of really powerful features to it before enhancing some of the keyboard shortcuts to make it a lot easier and faster to learn and use. This is a really cool thing to do. Now please visit my website if you're interested in some of the things we can offer, but let's get into this amazing video and actually really enjoy the power of enhancing your Vectorworks workspace even further. Now today we're going to look at how you can edit the workspace in your Vectorworks 2021 when you get the new release. So what we're going to do, we're going to go up to Tools, go down to Workspaces, and you can see we've got the standard workspaces here as you would expect. We're going to go into the Workspace command, and I'm going to take the standard architect one. This is the first workspace I'm going to create today, so I'm going to duplicate that one, tick the one that I've just created, and then click Edit. So this means I can now edit a copy of the architect, just so if I ever want to revert to the original one I can do. So I'm just going to rename this one JRA Architect, and I always put the version in 2021. So the very first thing that I'm going to do with my enhanced workspace is going to pop down to the object context menu here. And what I find really useful is to basically drag in a few different separators. Let's have a look, where's a good spot? Yeah, let's just drag those into, I think probably this position here. So I'm dragging in a few separators here. I think 3 should do. And then I'm going to go through all my menus. I'm going to run through and basically just add in the commands that I would like to use in various sections. So I always start with a section here with add and clip surface and so on. A bit further down I'm going to have align and distribute and leader lines as well. Just kind of scroll down, and basically what you can do here is you can choose all the different commands that you know are particularly useful. Let's have that one down there. I can rearrange them in a minute if I need to. Let's go down and get check spelling's always a good one to add in. Things that you always forget to use basically. So clip surface, drag that under add surface, so it's a good location. Compose, that's another one of the commands that would go there. Let's have a little look. So you can see there's absolutely tons of commands, so many that you will find in Vectorworks that are not always in the most obvious place. I think I'm going to go for some create detailed viewports and create dividing lines. Let's put that into that drafting section and so on. Sometimes it's easy to kind of miss what you're looking for. So, you know, don't feel like this is the only sort of set of views. I also need, here we go, let's go create viewport, create detailed viewport, that's good. And decompose, that's the one. Scroll down a bit further. A couple of other commands that I find particularly useful. Duplicate along a path, duplicate array, extremely useful. Even divide, that's a really nice one, and that probably go quite nicely with that one. Create dividing lines. And what else do we need? Let's go for these ones. So fit to object and fit, I tend to put in the document context. I tend to just drag those into there. Fit to object and sorry, not find object actually, although that could be useful. It's normally fit to object and fit to page. Let's drag those into there. Let's see what else we've got here. Yeah, cool. You get the idea, there's so many different commands. Let's go for join, it's quite a useful, good old fashioned command, but still useful. Into the drafting section. Let's go for move and join. No particular order other than what is logical to you. Paste in place is so useful. I tend to put it in twice actually in both the document and the object context. Let's go for paste in place. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We've got nearly everything we need. Quite like to have this one scale objects always in there. Let's put that into that section there. Create viewport, create detailed viewport. Yeah, I think that's probably okay. So if there's anything else you fancy that you do in your particular workflow, just simply add that in. Okay, so those are the document object context. Let me click OK, and then we'll come back and finish editing off the workspace in a moment so you can see the benefit. The other thing that you can do is actually open up the shortcuts here. And normally when I've got my big keyboard plugged in, which I will do a bit later, I'll change these add and clip sort of surface shortcuts just to be nice and simple. Command plus, for example, on the numerical keypad, Command minus for clip, and so on. So I'll do that a bit later. So we'll click OK. When we click OK, the modified workspace will now be saved into my particular user library, which is fairly deep in the system, but you can find this a bit later. So I'll click OK, and we'll have a quick look at what we've done so far. Now, we haven't quite finished, but we're getting there. So if I draw a couple of shapes, and okay, let's use my new on-demand menu by clicking spacebar. I can basically go to my rectangle tool. Let's draw a couple of shapes here. Let's do spacebar again. Let's do a rounded rectangle. And basically let's select all of those. And let's click, the standard shortcut at the moment is F for find. So if I just start typing in add surface, I can do it from here, from the command, and double click. Or I can actually right click. So I actually think that's a little bit quicker than previously doing the search. So that's my favoured workflow. So you can see basically we've got things like add or clip surface all available just under the right click. And if I do change these shortcuts, which I will a bit later, but it's really nice, you can learn the shortcuts as you go and basically work quite sort of effectively, you know, without having to invoke any sort of other shortcuts at all. Now when we right click in the document, the only extra things I've added so far are these two. So I would like to add a little bit more here, and we're also going to do a similar process with the tools. So let's kind of carry on and let's move to the next stage. Okay, so we're going to carry on with the next stage of the workspace editing. Just check we're on the JRA Architect 2021. Let's go to Edit Workspaces. Okay, so we're going to pop back into the Workspace Editor. And what we're going to do now is actually just sort out the shortcuts that we've got our big keyboard plugged in now. So down to add surface, rather than that rather unwieldy shortcut, I'm just going to type the plus key and change that to command plus. Does that make sense for adding? Let's make that minus for clip surface. Command minus is a good one for that. So overwrite this one, that's absolutely fine. We're just overwriting some of the kind of snapping commands, and I'll show you that later. And what we'll do, I think we'll leave the intersect as it is, that's okay. Let's move down to compose. I always think of compose a bit like multiplying, so let's make that star, command star. And decompose, a bit like dividing really. Let's do command slash or divide. So these are all the keyboard shortcuts on the big keyboard, remember, not a short one. Okay, so that's cool. We'll tuck that away. We're now going to go to the document settings and do a tiny bit more work. So what I want to do first thing is drag down a few separators into the space, and let's just drag down a couple more of those. So we're going to create a couple of new menu items as well. So drag down new menu into one of those separated sections, and basically, yeah, let's add that one a bit later. Basically what I can do now is drag down from the views menu, just open up that views menu, scroll down until I get standard views, there it is, and just drag that underneath the new menu item. Now I can actually edit the name of the menu, so just let it go blue and click to edit the name. Let's just call that 3D views. Okay, so you can see if I open up that little menu item, all the 3D views have been added with one click basically, which is cool. Now let's drag another new menu item into that little section here. We're going to go down and add some rendering commands, so let's just scroll down to the view menu again, I think. Yes, there we go. You can see the rendering commands available here. So I'm going to drag in, I'll leave batch render actually, I'll just go for hidden line. And you'll notice that as soon as I open that one up, let's just rename that rendering. Cool. And if I open that one up, it actually adds the different hidden line render modes, all three of them. So let's add OpenGL. Let's drag that to the top, as it's probably the most common render mode. And maybe wireframe as well. In terms of priority, I guess that should be the top one really. Or bottom one, yeah, let's pop that at the top. So we can reorganize these anytime we want to in terms of the order. Finally, I'm just going to drag in the final quality Renderworks items, and you'll see I'll actually add all of those with one go. So that's pretty cool. Good. Okay, so we've added 3D views. We've got our rendering. Let's close down the document settings. And I think for now we're done on this particular section. We're going to move on to one more little task, which is actually to go to the on-demand menus and tools. And actually that's found under the tools section. You're going to see it here. Quick search. Okay, or global search on a PC, I believe. Basically, there's no shortcut for this at the moment. So if we just scroll down, the standard shortcut is actually F, and I like to use F for fillet. So I'm going to use the key right next to the left of the 1 key with a funny kind of little plus minus mark on. So I'm going to use Command and that. That's cool. Excellent. So we'll close the tools menu back down. And let's now move on to having a look at editing the actual shortcuts for some of the tools themselves. So we'll open up the basic tools and the drawing tools. And the first thing I'll actually do before I kind of go ahead and actually put the shortcuts in is do a little bit of rearranging. So what I find is the tools that I rarely use, rather than have them sort of taking up space, I'd rather dock them underneath other things. And the wonderful spiral tool as it is, I've never actually really used it in my design. So I'm just going to pop it under the polyline, not deleting it, I'm just keeping it. I'm just hiding it away for when I don't need it very often. Things like the regular polygon can go under the polygon tool. And basically the oval tool we can drag under the circle here. Let's just pop that underneath. The rounded rectangle can go under the rectangle tool, of course. That makes a lot of sense. So try and group them together into logical kind of positions. Excellent. Okay, so now we can come on to notice that the shortcut for the rectangle tool is 4 and Alt 4 is the rounded rectangle. Same with things like the circle, 6 and Alt 6. So there's a bit of logic to that. Now I don't change the shortcuts for the drafting tools too much. I like to keep those consistent between every version of Vectorworks. Final little check there. Pretty happy with that. It's all good. So, okay, let's move on to the final section. The final tab at the top of the screen is keys. Okay, so what we're going to see here is I've actually successfully disabled some of the keyboard shortcuts for the snapping, which isn't a bad thing. Because you could click those by accident and suddenly turn off your snaps or turn the grid on, and a lot of people always wondered what was going on. So I think it's better to click on those on purpose and disable those. Okay, so that's a positive in my view. So you can see all the shortcuts for those have been wiped out. Okay, so down on this side, there's a few shortcuts we have deleted, if you like, by reassigning. Remember, I chose, it was equals actually, which was toggle view, but I actually put that for something else. So I'm just going to program the equals key back in. Sorry, that was M before. Equals is going to be toggle views, and I can trigger the smart cursor options with just the single keystroke without command, the key next to one, the plus minus key as I keep calling it, just to the left of one. And launching quick search, I'm actually going to do that with the bigger shortcut, command plus minus. Okay, up on the mode bar, these are quite important, these mode group shortcuts. Now what these do, these actually help you very rapidly move through all the different tool modes that Vectorworks offers. And you can see all I've done there is stolen the O key. So I'm just kind of rejigging these along. So I'm going to go for U, I, P, and then I'm going to go for open square bracket, close square bracket for mode group 5. And I can honestly tell you I've never used mode group 6, so I think that's absolutely fine to leave that one spare. Brilliant, so we're nearly done now. We'll click OK. Note where the workspace actually gets saved, which is fairly deep in my user folder. And there's a good little tip I can give you on finding that later. And basically now we've done everything we needed to do. So when the workspace reloads, if you watch the basic tools, you will notice that they're a little bit more straightforward and simple. We'll just check we're on that workspace. Brilliant. JRA Architect 2021. Okay, that's cool. So let's scroll up the attributes palette and make that a bit bigger, which I think is always a good thing. And we'll give a bit more space to the tool sets as well. Let's put our snaps on properly. And again, remember, the good thing is nothing's going to happen to those snaps ever unless you actually click on them. There's no shortcuts that could toggle them on and off, which was a bit dodgy before. So if I basically click on the shortcut number 4, I'm going to get my rectangle tool, and if I do Alt 4, I'll get the tool underneath. So there's no real need to have both tools right there. You know, 90% of the time you use the rectangle tool, not the rotated one. So why not have the one that you don't use very often hidden underneath? But if I do want it, I just do Alt 4. Same with circle, 6 for circle. Hardly ever use ovals, so I do Alt 6 for the oval tool. And I can use my U key to cycle through the modes there. So learning shortcuts, in my view, still the best way for Vectorworks. But not everybody loves the shortcuts. So, you know, the new on-demand commands and menus are going to be fantastic. Now, we've also got this lovely right-click capability. Now I've programmed that in. You can see I can actually do it with the keyboard. So if I do Command / I decompose. Command star is compose. So I can either do it by right-clicking or I can simply do it with the keyboard, even quicker. Fantastic. When I go to my document settings, I can right-click, and now I have the access to spin round 3D views and also change things like the rendering styles as well. Now all of that stuff is stuff that I've done for many, many years. The good thing is with Vectorworks 2021, now that we actually have these wonderful sort of contextual on-demand menus and commands at our fingertips, I think I'm going to probably change the way I work and start to use this a lot more. And I would definitely encourage new users to the software to give this approach a go. It doesn't mean you shouldn't learn the shortcuts. That will always be the fastest way. But, you know, it is very pleasurable and really, really nice to actually use the new features there. And I think when you're teaching and explaining and training, this is by far the easiest way, probably, to teach people. So do keep learning the shortcuts, but you can use both. So at the moment, I'm using my numerical keypad to spin around those views. And you'll see that actually the on-demand menu or commands and tools were actually changing at the same time. So it's really fantastic. So I hope you've enjoyed this video so far. If you really want to enhance your workflow with Vectorworks, make sure you do have a go at editing the workspace. It can be a bit complicated and daunting the first time. So if you prefer, go to my website, and not only can you have a look at all the wonderful new Vectorworks 21 features, so we've updated the website already and got everything on there. And if you go to actually the Vectorworks 2021 page, you'll see that we've kind of highlighted what some of our, you know, not everything, but some of our favourite new features here have been sort of highlighted, and you can learn a bit more about this as well. Finally, if you would like to get hold of the workspace without having to do it yourself, just go to the store page, and if you scroll down, not only will you see I've got some fantastic library packs that I sell, so take a look at those, they're really good value. If you go to the second page, you can still actually purchase my wonderful book that I wrote a few years ago, and both of those actually come with the workspace. One with the workspace and the other one with the workspace and a full set of libraries. Very, very good value for all the libraries, my workspace and a wonderful book. Well, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.